Hello again and welcome to the final part of this tutorial. Once again, these are the imports. You can pass and copy them or add them as the Eclipse uh, editor tells you to add imports. So our update and new activity also extends activity like our main activity. Keep in mind this is just an activity, not a list activity or a list view activity. We have our variables here, a private edit text, private edit text, they're all edit text, and we have buttons. This obviously will be so that we can actually get the edit text or labels as some people know it, and actually set yeah set the values or get the values from them. We also have our progress dialog again and our private ID. Um, and we have our uh, final our constant normal variables that we had from the last class in our previous tutorial, which include tag create, tag update, tag success, etc. And we also have our JSON parser again. We make another JSON parser. And here we have our URLs. We have our create contact and update contact. As you may have noticed, once again, you have to replace this with your hosting domain, and that part would be your PHP file. We're actually going to be setting a URL to the create contact. Because by default, we want this class to be called from create contact, but we will do a check to see if it was so if we got to it from the context activity page or activity, and if that was the case, we will set the URL to update contact instead. Okay, so on create, we have our apply button and our cancel button. Intent I get intent. So once again, we need to get our intent, our data from previous activities, and we're saying that first name. We're getting the views like what they are from for first name, last name, etc. And we cast them to edit text. This is just normal stuff you always do in Android. Um, and here we are checking if tag update is equal to button clicked. What this means is that if we got here by having originally clicked on the update button, then like I said before, we want to set the URL to update contact, and also we want to get the contact information from our last activity, which was the one where it displayed all of them. We would only do this if we're updating, because if we're creating a new one, there really isn't any data to get from the context because it's a new one. So yeah. And what we're actually doing is we are actually setting the text in those edit text boxes, just so that the person doesn't have to memorize whatever the information was. And yeah, it pretty much autofills the information for you, and you just change whatever entry you had to change. This is how any other normal button is handled when it's clicked. Same for cancel button. Except when the apply button is clicked, we're actually gonna execute our class, which extends asynchronous an asynchronous task, which will be the update context. We'll get to it in a bit. And when we cancel button, all we do is we just close the activity. That's all we're doing for that. Okay, so when apply is hit and update context is executed, we're doing the same thing we did with delete and read, where we actually just on our pre-execute, we start our progress dialog that says updating contact. We set updating, but it could potentially also be, creating. But yeah, okay. Do in background. What do in background is doing is it's getting the entries in the edit text boxes so that we can actually add them to our list of name value pairs, as you will see just right here actually. So yeah, we're actually getting all of the data entered into the edit text boxes. We create a new list value pairs params, which will be what we'll be sending in the URL so that we can actually change our context database. Okay, and here we're doing another check. If the update contact was selected, we actually also want to send in the private ID so that it knows which contact on the database to modify. Otherwise, there is no ID yet because it hasn't been created. So then, otherwise, if it's update or create, we're still adding the first name, last name, area code, and phone number. Okay. So then we create our JSON parser class, and we call, or that was already created. Now we're actually calling the make HTTP request from our JSON parser class, and we're getting a JSON object. We're checking that the tag success code was equal to 1, and if it was equal to 1 and it was an update contact, then we're starting a new intent, or creating a new intent, or getting the intent actually, and we're finishing this one, and we're actually setting a result. Yeah, actually, let's add finish here as well, because we want to close this activity even if we create a new contact, and it should just go back to, unless, never mind, we actually handle that somewhere else. Okay, well then yeah, we're not doing anything if it is on create. We already did the call, we already updated our context database, and on post execute, we're dismissing the dialog box, and we're finishing the activity, we're closing the activity. Okay. That seems to be right. Oh yeah, an activity result. That means when we complete this the activity, or actually, ignore this last part. I don't think we needed that. It was just part of my coding that I forgot to delete because in the tutorial. But yeah, okay. So then that concludes this part of the last part of the tutorial. I actually can't run it on a virtual device on my laptop because it's very low and low power ender. Yeah. So you could, if your computer can handle it, you can run it on your virtual device. Otherwise, I highly recommend using an actual device, an actual Android device, just because yeah, it just makes it easier and it's much faster. So yeah, that concludes how to create, read, update, and delete entries in a database from an Android device. All of these methods are pretty much redundant. They all pretty much do the same thing with the few exceptions of the parameters being sent. Most of the stuff is handled by the JSON parser class, and yeah, pretty straightforward. Alright, thanks for watching guys.